Welcome back to another Thought Leader podcast, and today I'm excited to have my good buddy Neil Zimmerman here with me. Neil, welcome to the podcast, buddy.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. We did a shoot a few months ago, and you had to bail out a little early before we could get that done, and so now we're here, and we're going to capture a little bit of understanding who you are and how you got into production. And how you got into ultimately ministry. So that's kind of what we're going to go over. You really haven't given you a whole lot of what we want to talk about.
No, none.
So that's...
this will be fun.
That's part of the plan. So, but just for the people who are listening that may not know you, you and I have known each other for some time.
Yeah.
But just give us a little bit of kind of who you are, what your position is, that kind of stuff, just for some context.
Yeah. I'm the engineering director at Christ Fellowship Church. We're a multi-site church based out of South Florida. And so I get to oversee all things signals and systems for that organization and help build new things and take care of things that need to be taken care of. And
Yep.
it's a lot of fun. My background, I started in sports TV. So went to college, got a communications degree, stayed around for a little while, got a business degree, and went into sports TV heavy. Mm-hmm. And loved that. Loved the challenge. Was working full-time as a TV engineer and, just following the sports seasons through the year. And loved the challenge, loved the complexity, but didn't feel like I was making a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I remember one night in particular, we had a late football game, and I got home around midnight, and it had been like a 12 or a 14-hour day. And I sat down on my couch, and I just remember thinking, I'm exhausted, and for what? Like, what did we accomplish today that made a difference, right? Yeah. And so I kind of knew at that point, like, all right, something's got to change. And I had grown up in South Florida and still had some friends there. So I texted a buddy of mine. I said, like, hey, like, would y'all, do y'all need help? Y'all be interested in, having me come back down there? And they were like, yeah, come on. So I started with Christ Fellowship just shy of 8 years ago and haven't looked back.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot actually there that I want to dive into.
Great.
But let's start here. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in a tiny little town no one's ever heard of in South Florida. It's called Hobe Sound.
Yep.
It's like 45 minutes north of West Palm Beach, and It had one stoplight.
One.
And I remember when we got a Wendy's. We didn't have a McDonald's. They do now. It's grown up a little bit, but when I was in middle school, we got a Wendy's, and that was a big deal in our town.
Yeah, in my town, I think it was when Little Caesars came to town.
Oh,
in Branson. Yeah,
Hope Sound still does not have a Little Caesars. So.
Well, Little Caesar has come and gone, and he's now back. So, But anyway, so you've been in the West Palm area, give or take 45 miles north. Sounds like all your life.
So I moved away for college and for my first job. So I spent 8 or 9 years up in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
Attending the University of Florida, go Gators, and starting my broadcast career up there.
Okay. So remind me of the town again. Sorry, that you grew up in.
Hobe Sound.
Hobe.
Yeah. Hobe.
Oh. Hobe Sound. Okay. Yeah. Hobe Sound, Florida. Mm-hmm. Growing up in Hobe Sound, Florida, what was the family dynamic there?
So, small family, just me, my mom, and my dad.
Okay.
So I grew up an only child and had to learn from a very young age how to be alone with my own thoughts and keep myself entertained. And I think that built a lot into my career of like how to solve a problem and how to just figure out how to get things done.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
So what did you do hobbies wise? Were you into sports? Were you into
No, I am about the least athletic person you'll ever meet, but I ran cross country in high school.
Okay.
Because I figured I needed some sort of a sport, and that was the only one that didn't require me to throw or catch anything. So I figured this is safe for me and for everybody else involved. I can run.
You can do that, yeah.
No, but as a kid, I loved to play with Legos, and I loved to play with Kinects and build things. My dad would bring home, like I remember one time he brought home an old printer, and we like took it apart and figured out how to power the individual motors and pieces, and so a lot of stuff like that of just I loved to take things apart and see how they worked, and add little pieces. I remember one time, I might have a picture of this somewhere, but I built a stage out of Kinects and added little Christmas lights over top of the stage, and I built little top hats for them, so they actually would kind of be directional, and built a little stage, and I thought that was really cool.
Okay, so that's interesting. I mean, you were into Legos and the Kinects and everything. Were you into music, or why did you build how old were you when you built the stage?
Probably, I don't know, 10.
Okay. Was there an interest or family connection with production, or
no?
Okay.
No, I always thought, that world of like live entertainment. I don't even know that I would have known to call it production at that age.
Right.
I just thought like what I saw on TV was cool.
Okay. All right.
It was a mix of art and science that I hadn't really seen anywhere else manifest itself. And I just remember, like, from a really young kid thinking, like, man, wouldn't it be cool to do something like that someday?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
And here we are.
Here
25 years later. So
that's great. So, track. Were you like the track star?
No.
Okay.
No. I did run varsity cross country my senior year. I was very proud of that. I think the coach pitied me a little that it was my senior year and let me run varsity.
What did you run?
Ran cross country in the fall, so that's a 5K.
Yeah.
And was decent at that. And then for track season, our coach, the cross country and track coach, was the same coach, small high school.
Yep.
And so he wanted us to do distance events because he wanted us to use track season as conditioning for cross country season. We didn't really like that, so one year we thought it would be really fun to just pick the most like obscure, like anti-long distance event because we were in high school and it was fun to be ridiculous. So I spent a full 2 seasons of track running the 110 meter high hurdles.
Oh, wow.
And I was really bad at it. And in hindsight, I'm just, that was real dumb.
Why the hurdles?
Because it was the furthest thing from a distance event I could figure out how to do. And I was terrified of them. Like I would do like a full bunny hop over the hurdle because I was so afraid of falling I like couldn't get comfortable with it.
And I don't know how anyone does it. I never ran in track, but I've been at school and the hurdles are out there, and you're kind of like for weightlifting or whatever, and we would do our warm up laps before we'd go in, and you always see them, and I'm like, man, I don't know how anybody can run at that and then jump over the top of it. It's scary.
Yeah, if you're worried about landing on your face, you figure out how to jump high enough so that doesn't happen real quick.
I think for me, I was always worried about my shins first, face second. Right? Because that's the order in which it would happen.
Yeah. Well, the hurdle will fall. Like,
I know.
Yeah,
but it's still going to, you're still going to hit it with your foot, which if you hit it with your foot, it's fine. But I was always worried about the shins. So anyway. Cool. So, high school, were you involved outside of track or anything, involved in band or choir or
no
academic clubs?
I started volunteering at our church around high school, and we still don't quite know how that happened. It's a funny story. So, Dad was always involved with the church, and he modeled for me from a fairly young age, like, this is what we're going to do. So
love that.
He did all kinds of, kind of odd jobs for the church. He would drive a little shuttle bus and, he was an usher on the weekends.
Okay.
And so like I started from a very young age, like ushering with him.
So he was modeling serving.
Right.
in the local church. I got you.
And one day, I was probably 14. I got a call from a number at the church, and they left a message, and they were like, "Hey, we got your information. We're excited that you want to serve in production, and we'd love to have you come in for training." I never submitted anything, and I don't know if somebody, like, we've beat this up as a family for years. We still can't figure out how the heck this happened, but I don't know if it was a paperwork error or if somebody that knew me just thought, like, you just need to do this, and stuck my information in the
awesome
thing.
I love that.
But that ultimately, it was something that I thought was cool. So I was like, well, I called them back and I was like, hey, I'm like a 14-year-old kid, right? And they were like, yeah, come on in. You can run a camera. So
that's awesome.
That was how I got involved originally, which was kind of cool still to this day.
Okay, so I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
In that season of life, serving, and is that where, obviously that's probably where you started to get your groundwork of production work, right? Like your skill set build. That's the foundation of it, right?
Yeah.
Before you moved on to college, how high did you get up in the ranks within the team there?
So
You started as a camera op.
Yeah, I think I did that once. I think they taught me to run camera once, and that was kind of it. So I was very grateful. There was
And then the next Sunday, you showed them how to do 5 things on the switcher that you had just set down 5 minutes before.
No, I knew nothing. So the church at the time had a systems engineer. His name was Travis Grote, and he's a dear friend still to this day. And Travis was kind enough to just let me follow him around.
Nice.
And he would explain what he was doing. So, like, on the weekends, he would show me a little thing, here and there about the lighting console. My like first significant investment into the world of ministry was lighting. Like, I learned how to. I think I ran camera once and was like, I don't love this. And then I, found the lighting console. I was like, look at all the stuff I can make it do, as I think a lot of young designers do.
Control.
So many buttons.
Yeah,
yeah.
Let
me find out. So he would kind of show me a little thing, and then I would go home. I'd read the manual, and it was a Hog 3, so at the time you could go pull the software and run it at home. And I thought that was really, really cool.
It is really, really cool. I mean,
but Travis would let me follow him around, and I loved when something would break, which it did all the time. He would let me follow him around and ask questions and figure out why, and he would take the time to explain to me why he was doing what he was doing and what was important, and hey, don't touch that, it'll kill you, kind of like the stuff that is important as a good foundation.
Sure.
But he ultimately is kind of how I got my foundation, serving at the church, and then just spending time with him and his investment in me.
Yeah, that's interesting because we can dive into it a little bit more later. But to reference back, like what you just described of Travis, I can see that in you. You know what I mean? Just investing in people and not just saying, here, let me just do it, get out of my way, which there's times for that, right?
Yeah.
But you're the type of individual that wants to explain it. You want to, well, let's do this because this, and this. And I think whether you know it or not, I think there's a connection there. So,
well, when somebody has done that for you and the value it's created for you personally and professionally, and he really challenged me, like, hey, go to school, get a degree, go learn something outside of this building, go get great experience. And he was right. It was all phenomenal advice that I'm glad I took. But when somebody has made that kind of investment in you, you understand the weight of your words and the weight of the value of that investment that you have the opportunity to make in somebody else.
That's good. That is good right there. That's gold. So, lighting guy, that was your role at the church.
It was.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They were, I would kind of learn whatever. My design work was not good. But the church.
You mean starting out, it wasn't great? Come on.
Well, it also.
I'm just kidding.
This was in the world of park hands and color scrollers. So like there was no, there were no LEDs. We had some like high-end system studio spots.
Okay.
There were like 6 on the stage, and then everything else was a conventional. So we had like pars and Legos up in the ceiling, and
Gotcha.
you know, between songs you'd have to pull the pars down, let the color scrollers
And then bring them back
bore
up.
it through, and then bring them
As
back
they
up.
went,
Yeah, and then inevitably got stuck,
Right.
and you would have to pull them down. And I got very good at restringing old color scrollers. Because the other thing, and this was kind of a cool opportunity, the more gear worked, the more they would let me work with. So like it was in my best interest to like learn how to fix stuff, because it was like, oh,
sure,
well,
you had more tools in the toolbox,
yeah,
right?
it's like if I can fix those 2 dead scrollers in the back, like we can put 2 more pars out, and that's gonna, you know, really sell this.
I'll tell you what, that's a fuel for any young person that really wants to work with something bigger and better. That's
yeah.
a lot of fuel right there.
Yeah.
I love that.
My so I think some of that stems from I loved Christmas lights as a kid,
Okay.
and Dad had a rule. I could put as much lights on the house as I wanted to, but I had to make the lights work. So I would go, this is a true story, I would go dig Christmas lights out of the trash. Like when people would get rid of their old stuff, I would pull them into the garage, and I would, you know, check bulbs and splice plugs on. And, you know, I got very good, very scrappy, very at a young age, making Christmas lights work. And it ultimately, I think it bit my dad, because I got very good at this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he kind of looked at me one day and he's like, you know, the electric bill goes up every time you...
Right.
I was like, this was the deal. You told me if I could fix them, they could go up.
Well, and are we talking about like the little Christmas bulbs? Or are we talking like C5, C7 screw-in type?
Oh, whatever I could get my
Whatever
hands
you
on.
could get. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't matter. And I electrocuted myself more times than I care to admit, and blew fuses and made all kinds of mistakes. But
All right. So there's got to be a picture or two. I want to see them at some point.
oh, I'll find you some.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
So in high school, outside of working at the church
Yep.
as a volunteer, running a little track, taking Christmas tree lights out.
Yeah, you know.
But Christmas tree
Doing
lights
some
in a
trash
thousand.
picking?
Yeah, besides that, hey, there's nothing wrong with a good
It was a
dumpster
small
dive.
town, Daryl. There
yeah.
wasn't a lot to do.
I got you. Anything else? Did you work with the theater department? No.
Not at
Okay.
all.
Okay.
Which is funny looking back on it, because that's where, you know, a lot of my career ended up. But it was not interesting to me at all.
Okay.
I appreciate the world of theater.
But that wasn't your jam.
No, not
Okay.
at all. Wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. Wasn't involved.
Okay. So you got the diploma. You walked across the stage, graduated.
Yeah.
You took your what's his name, Travis?
Yeah.
Did you take Travis's advice? You said you went to college, so
I did.
Did you go immediately?
I did. I went right away, and thought I was going to go be an electrical engineer, because production was something fun that I did on the side, but it wasn't like a job.
Right.
Like we weren't going to. Yeah.
It was serving at church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it was a cool thing, but like we weren't going to. That wasn't going to be the career. Like, you know, Dad was an engineer, and like that was what we were going to go do.
Okay, that explains the computer printer from earlier.
Sure.
Dad being an engineer, let's
Yep.
figure out how to. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense now.
So did almost 2 years of electrical engineering track at the University of Florida, and hated it.
Wow.
Absolutely hated it.
What didn't you like about it?
I am big on practical, and so the math very quickly got into theoretical and imaginary numbers. And
Yeah, I got you.
it was a lot of math that didn't have an application. And I don't know if at the time that was a program issue where they just weren't doing a great job relating it. But it was like we were learning all this stuff, and I just could not figure out how it was important or why it mattered. And so it was really hard for me to stay invested in it.
Yeah.
And my grades reflected that.
I got you. I got you.
So like 2 years in, I had lunch with a friend, and I was like, I don't know that I want to finish this. Like, I'm starting to think this isn't for me. And she was like, well, why don't, like, you did all that production stuff back home. Like, like there's a college of communications and they have, all this stuff you can go learn and do. And I was like, really? Like,
at the University of Florida?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had never looked into it. And so it turned out they had a phenomenal school of communications with a, fairly well-represented, TV broadcast track. I looked into it, and I still was holding on to that idea that, like, you don't do this for a career.
Right.
But she encouraged me to go talk to your guidance counselor or whatever they're called in college.
Yeah.
And went and had some conversations, went and walked through the college of journalism, and it was like, oh, this is really cool. And you can do this as a career. And so I talked to my parents about it, and they were really supportive. Mom knew engineering was not going great.
Moms can typically see that stuff, right?
They can. Yeah.
Dad holding on a little bit to it, though.
No.
Okay.
At least not publicly.
Okay, all right.
He put on a good poker face.
Attaboy, Dad.
For him. So, I made the switch about 2 years in, and immediately started loving school because I was finally, finally learning. I did. They told me, and they're like, you do have to take one more math class. And I just looked at the person and I was like, what's the lowest math I can take? And they were like, math for liberal arts majors. I was like, what's one step up from that? And they were like, college algebra. I was like, sold, sign me up.
Done. I'm in.
Yeah. So did that. But, really quickly, my whole idea of college shifted because suddenly I was really, really interested.
Gotcha.
In, what I was learning and what I was doing. And the college had some experience programs. And so one of the...
Like work experience?
Yeah. Or, like intern, come see type things. And so one of the opportunities they had was in sports. And so you could go be what they called a Gator Vision intern.
A Gator Vision intern.
So I signed up and interviewed and got a position as a Gator Vision intern, which meant you were a grip during, whatever
whatever sporting event was being.
Yeah, but it put me in the wing of the building the control rooms were in. And it put me around people that were doing this for a living. And it got really cool.
Really quick, I bet.
Really quick. I hated being a grip.
Sure.
But I was like, okay, I am around people I want to be around and around people I want to learn from.
But you could see somewhere you could go with this, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So it wasn't just something you did just to serve as kind of a cool, fun thing. Now you're like, I can do
this
that.
was like, not only is this cool, but there are other people doing this as a career. It started kind of to make sense. I was like, oh, wait a second. Like we could actually, we could do this.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I met a gentleman by the name of Brad Noblet. And Brad,
I've heard you talk of him before.
Yeah, good guy from Missouri.
Yeah.
And
got to be a great guy.
Brad was the engineer for the building. He was the director of engineering at the time, and so he oversaw all things Gator Vision and all things for all of the university's media properties. And I figured out who he was real quick and kind of went, "You're the guy that I want to spend time around."
He's got the keys on his belt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so one day we're walking over to the venue to set stuff up, and I had been assigned to a camera that day, and he was helping me build the camera because I was 120 pounds soaking wet, and the camera weighed more than I did. But he came over, and he goes, "Neil, what do we want to be when we grow up? And I'll never forget saying this, and I still to this day can't believe it worked. But I had seen in a movie where somebody had been in this exact same situation.
Yeah.
And they said, like, well, I want your job. So I looked Brad dead in the face, and I went, well, Brad, I want your job.
You know what's crazy about that, dude?
What?
We'll talk off camera, but I actually have that same exact moment in my career.
Seriously?
Dead serious. Dead serious. We'll talk about that off camera. So continue.
Okay, fair enough.
There's that moment there where we've known each other for what? 7, 8 years,
yeah.
something like that. And it's the first time that has come up. But that's crazy. So go ahead. You want Brad's job.
So I told Brad, and I like the fact that I said that still kind of makes my skin crawl a little because it was super uncharacteristic for me and probably still would be. But I was like, I'm going to go for this. Like, I've made it this far and this guy is asking. So I found out later he went back to the staff and told them basically, hey, there's an intern kid that wants my job. And made a big deal out of it, which was like, well.
That's fun, though. I love that.
But Brad was into it. So he was like, all right. And so I started.
Sounds like you found your Travis and Brad.
Absolutely.
Travis from the church, your Brad at college, yeah.
We finished the internship, and Brad offered me a part-time job working to do like event support for the sporting events that were going on in the university. And at the time, we were just cutting video board shows. Okay. So we did football, basketball, volleyball. I think that was kind of it at the time.
Was it so? Essentially, you were doing it through school.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to keep you around once you graduated. Is that what I'm understanding?
So this was about halfway through undergrad.
Okay.
So the internship ended, and then he actually offered me like a adult part-time job.
I got you. While you continued to complete your education. Okay, understand.
Yeah. So we were doing mostly video boards, some graduations here and there, but at the time, ESPN had approached all of the SEC schools, and they had presented this concept of the SEC network. And the idea was that the schools were going to build and resource control rooms, and they were going to be the TV truck. So rather than ESPN sending a truck to the school, like the school was going to do the production. And so that idea had just kind of started spinning when I took this part-time job.
Okay.
So Brad continued to invest in me, and he also got me hooked up with the local crews that were coming in with the TV trucks. So I started running Bug for like baseball on Fox. Which
that's cool.
They were like D-level Fox shows. It was on, Sun Sports, Fox, Florida, South 2.
You know what? It doesn't matter. That's still cool, man.
It was cool, and for me, like getting a paycheck, doing a 3-day event and getting a paycheck made a world of difference as a college kid.
It's real now.
Yeah.
Like it's not just I can see it. Like it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that for about a year and a half, and then as graduation kind of came up, Brad said to me, like, would you, what do you want to do next? And mom had told me when I started undergrad, just go get your master's. And I did not want to do that at all. God bless her.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, well, my mom really wants me to get my master's, but like I had some opportunities at the time. I had a job offer in New York with a broadcast company up there.
Wow.
And like I had some things to consider.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he was like, what if you stay here? You help us, get this whole SEC network thing going, and we'll help you with your master's. That was really hard to pass up.
I started to say, heck yeah.
So I took a full-time job with the University of Florida, and in their broadcast division, and went and got my master's at the same time.
That's awesome.
So we launched the SEC Network Adventure as part of one of the schools. We were the first school to do a live show on the SEC Network.
Bro, that's awesome.
Which was absolutely wild.
Yeah.
And then we very quickly realized, not only do we now have to do a video board show for all these venues, but we also have to do a linear TV show. And now we're also going to do baseball, softball, soccer, track.
Right.
Like suddenly, so our show load like quadrupled in the course of a year. We went from doing like 100-something shows to like 300-something shows.
Wow.
And so like very quickly, I just, out of the sheer nature of the scale, I became a engineer in charge that was responsible for these shows. And, you know, the weight of being able to sit next to the control room in engineering and watch the cable return with the ESPN logo on it was a really cool thing.
That's awesome.
So did that, got my master's at the same time, which very, very, very grateful I went and did that. Mom was right, as she, usually is.
Yeah.
Did that for, another 4 or 5 years, and then finally got to that point where, the complexity and the high of the whole thing had kind of come down, and I just said, I don't feel like I'm making a difference. They let me do some teaching. I had some, really cool interns that went on to do great things along the way. And that was fun, but that was such a small part of my job.
Right.
It didn't feel like I was, getting the opportunity to really give back in a way that I wanted to. And that's kind of when I made the switch in the career.
So I'm going to pick on that just a little bit because for our purpose here, having the conversation, I want to know, but just even as a friend, like, that seems weird because, you're in a great position, working on some really cool stuff with ESPN. You basically helped pilot this new concept, right? Or launch this new concept for a major network.
Yeah.
But, like, you just were like, I think I want to do something different than this. Like, you just weren't feeling fulfilled? Or, was there something underlying that... And we don't have to talk about it it just seems weird, right? It's like kind of almost ideal job that I didn't even know that I wanted, but it's not as ideal as I thought. Is that all it was?
I just didn't feel like I was in the right place.
Okay.
And I fought that for about 8 months, and I told myself, like, you just got your master's, you're doing a great thing here, you're getting great experience. But it got to the point where I knew the system like the back of my head. I could patch a show in my sleep. I was able to teach it to other people. And I felt like I had done it, and I was glad I did it. But I didn't feel like I was getting to make an impact that had any sort of eternal significance. We were pumping out what was essentially entertainment. Yeah. Right?
I got you.
And don't get me wrong, I think that has value. I'm not knocking that. I just don't think it was right for me.
So just in your spirit, you were feeling like you were called to have more of an impact.
Yeah.
Than what you were creating in that moment, in that situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just didn't feel right anymore.
Yeah.
And it was time to go do something that was going to make a difference for people.
Okay.
And so that's ultimately when I made the shift to Christ Fellowship. Now I'm very blessed. I still get to go do cool freelance projects and get to work with big gear and, do work in trucks and do big events and stuff like that. So I still try to keep myself sharp and get out on the road and do stuff. But I'm grateful in the seat I am now to be doing something that I feel like has an eternal impact.
So then you made a call and you said, hey, I want to do something that has more eternal impact.
Yeah.
Is there anything out there that you know of? How did that happen and you landed at Christ Fellowship?
So I called my friend Greg, who at the time was the executive director that oversaw creative, and Greg
At Christ Fellowship.
At Christ Fellowship.
Okay.
So Greg started out as a student ministries intern and was the worship leader, like back when I was in like middle and high school. So I had known Greg for a while.
Yeah.
And then, knew he was down there, so gave him a call and just went like, "Hey, y'all need help. Like,
Right.
what, is there something I can come down and do?" And he was like, "Yeah, come on." So we talked, and they ultimately hired me on as like, I think, a systems technician or something.
Yeah.
But Christ Fellowship, I think, like a lot of multi-site churches, because I think at the time we had like 6 or 7 campus locations, and multi-site organizations, I think when you go from 1 to 2, you go from that first one to that second one, you sacrifice whatever you can to just get into the second building.
Right.
Right. And maybe you do that for the third. But at some point you kind of have to start rethinking, okay, we can't just scrape together whatever gear we have.
Right.
And just throw it in the next building, because eventually it's going to be impossible to kind of maintain all of this.
Right.
And Christ
you
Fellowship,
run out of gear too.
right. Or you're, buying it off of eBay, and it gets messy to try to scale.
Sure.
And so Christ Fellowship hadn't really made that jump. And it's a little tricky in South Florida because we're moving into venues that are all different. So we have no 2 buildings that are even close to familiar. So we look for real estate, and we go build it out. So we have an old Target, an old Dillard's,
which are quite different.
Which are very different. We have a venue that it's attached to a mall. We had a old church downtown, like all completely different. And when I first got there, it was different buildings, different gear, different vibe, different. We had buildings that were, HD, some that were still kind of SD, but they were 16:9, and it like.
You had to read your own manual before you walked into the building to do anything, to figure out, okay, what's here? What are we doing here? Because everything was different.
So much of it had been built out, by team that was there, sacrificing and just getting it done.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of documentation, and so suddenly there was a lot to figure out very quickly. And so over the next couple of years, I started talking with my boss about, okay, how do we start paying attention to scaling this in a way that's sustainable and that we can support versus just getting the next one going.
Right.
Because at some point, we're just going to have to hire people to maintain what's there if we don't start thinking about our approach and get strategic.
Yep.
Which, I think ultimately ties back to stewardship
Sure.
too. Like your strategy will directly affect the amount of money you spend and how you spend it.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was like, as we jumped into things, it was, okay, how do we take what we do and figure out how to scale it in a way that is more sustainable than just, all right, let's get that next building open, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, we've talked about that whole process, not at Christ Fellowship specifically, but in general.
Yeah.
On Circles, and we will continue to talk about that because I don't know that has been dialed in by anyone quite yet. But,
no, and we certainly haven't perfected it by any means. We've just gotten better over the years.
Always be improving the process, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so you're there. They brought you in as a systems tech.
Yeah.
And I know there were some seasons in your life.
Oh, yeah. So we... I have done a few different jobs since being on staff, and what I have learned is if you are good at solving problems and willing to jump in and figure things out, you will get unique experiences in your career.
You will be everybody's guy. Right?
There is some truth to that.
Yes.
And that's true of my freelance work as well. I mean, I joke with my friends, I don't typically get called for a show that's going to go great.
You get called for the ones that they know they're going to have issues and they need a kneel.
I'm the guy people call when they know the show is going to be a mess, which to some extent is it's a little flattering.
It
Like,
should
don't get me
be,
wrong.
yeah.
You're like, oh, like,
Yeah.
well, thank you for thinking of me, and then you get there and you're like, I'm not sure that I did a good thing here. Like, I've worked myself into a corner, and I'm not sure this was great. But you know, how are we relating that back to? I got lost on a tangent.
No, you're good. You're good. We're talking about the seasons at Christ Fellowship.
Oh,
so
sure.
you came in as a systems tech, and
Yeah. So during the pandemic, everything changed, and at the time, our lighting director stepped away, and because I had some experience in
lighting,
the world of lighting. This had all happened kind of right before the pandemic, and so my boss said, "Hey, we're going to make this staff transition. Would you be willing to take the lighting team for a season, just until we can fill the role
for a season?"
Right.
Yeah.
And
those words are in quotes, by
Yes.
the way. Yeah, for a season.
and I would talk to him at the time. I said, "How long do you think that'll be?" And he said, 6 months tops. Well, about 2 months later, the world shut down, and so I got to be the LD for Christ Fellowship for the next almost 4 years.
Just a season deal.
Because
Yeah.
everybody's priority for everything changed, and it was tough because at first, it was like, okay, how do we take care of the team that's here, and how do we let's just figure out how to maintain, because
Right.
I didn't want to make creative decisions. I just wanted to set a good foundation for whoever was going to step into that role.
I gotcha.
And so we did a lot of, all right, let's label this. If this is silly, let's fix it. If it's unsafe, let's absolutely fix it. So
Right.
we started going through our lighting systems of like, let's fix what's unsafe, let's fix what's unsmart, let's fix what's unsustainable.
Right.
And that was kind of my lens for the first, 6 months or so.
Okay.
And then it became very clear very quickly that this wasn't going to end soon.
Anytime soon, yeah.
And I kind of remember the team kind of started to pressure me of like, hey, we gotta start making some decisions here and figuring it out. And so we started asking questions like, well, okay, what's most important? And so we started looking through the lens of our cameras. We're a multi-site organization, and so video is very, very important to what we do.
Sure.
Our pastor is speaking through the camera to all of our other campus locations and online. And in that season, online was it,
Yeah.
right? So that was super important. So we started looking at, okay, how does this look, and what can we do to make it better? And at the time, like, it wasn't that I didn't know what to do. I knew there were things about what we were doing that could be better and how to make them better.
Yeah.
But we just started watching other churches, because there's a lot of different approaches you can take to how you light a communicator, or
Sure.
How you
Sure.
make something feel.
Yep.
And we had to figure out what was right for us. And so my boss and I both really liked the way that Andy Stanley looked at North Point.
Yeah.
And so we drove up there and cornered Seth Thiessen after
Great dude. I love Seth.
a service, and basically said like, hey, we drove from South Florida. Will you talk to us for a minute?
Didn't call ahead, didn't send an email, we drove
went.
like, how far of a drive?
It's like 8 hours.
8 hours. We just drove 8 hours. Can you give me 10 minutes?
And Seth, and I've told Seth this story from my
That is so
perspective, and
funny.
we still keep in touch to this day, which is cool. But he was very kind, and he spent
he's a good dude.
Far more than 10 minutes, like,
I'm sure.
telling us about his approach, and
Yeah.
so we went home and we went, all right, great, like we're gonna try this, and we started working through our front light, and
It's where you start.
we bought a meter, because we didn't have one, and that was making the whole thing really challenging. But bought a meter, started asking really good questions, got very sciencey about our approach, and started looking at cameras, started asking a lot of why are we doing this way questions
Okay.
to figure out, how did we end up here and where do we go from here?
Yep.
Called a couple other friends for help to just go, hey, what do we need to be doing? And then finally, when we had enough information on both the video side of things and the lighting side of things, we just started making very incremental changes.
Wait, so you're telling me that the video side and the lighting side need to make changes to... that's okay. Interesting.
Your video and your lighting people need to be best friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they're not, that should be one of your biggest priorities to try and figure out.
100% agree.
Because if your video people and your lighting people don't get along, your product is never going to look the way that it should.
Man, that'll preach.
Yeah.
That will preach, brother.
We live through that. The beautiful thing about church is you can change something once a week, see it, decide if you like it, and then change it again.
And then change it again. Yeah, that's good.
So during the COVID season,
true.
we had a lot of time to work at just broadcast.
Just dialing in the broadcast.
And so we did gel changes, we did focus changes, we added uplight, we added backlight, we changed color temperature, we repainted cameras, if you name it, we did it. And we tracked our progress over time. So we would, after we changed something, we would, regardless of if we liked it or not, we would let it sit for 2 weeks.
You're documenting it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a PDF document of here's where we started. Here's all the steps in between. Some good, some not so great. We learned some things about color science along the way.
Yeah. I would love to act like that's a shock to me, but I actually have seen that document because we have had this conversation before, and it's amazing. I love that. That is awesome.
And it's come in handy a number of times as we've explained this to other churches that are asking about. Because now we're at a place where we're really proud of the way that our pastor looks. And
you should be, yeah.
I made the mistake, and I did this on an event with you. I made the mistake during that season of saying that my goal was to make my senior pastor look irresistible.
I actually remember. Yeah.
And the team to this day gives me crap for saying that. I stand by it for what it's worth.
But I get it.
When I genuinely believe we have the best opportunity to tell the greatest story that's ever been told.
Yeah.
And so when my communicator he's prepared and he has something to share, I want people to pay attention, and I want people to not be able to look away.
Yeah, locked in on the visual.
And irresistible is the best word I can use.
Works for me, man.
And so that's really what we tried to do. And so now we're very proud of where we landed, and it took the better part of 18 months to get to something that we were proud of. But now people walk in and they go, oh, how much gear did you have to buy? How much? And I tell people we bought some sheets of gel, and we spent time, and we were willing to ask vulnerable questions of people smarter than us.
Yeah,
and basically go, how do we get here? How do we do what we need to do? And we learned a ton along the way, but for very little dollars. It was a time investment. It was a learning investment, but for very little dollars, we have a significantly different and more engaging looking image that goes out to all of our campuses and all of our folks watching online as a result of that investment.
Tell you, I love that. And, I think sometimes we just don't have the right gear. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes we just don't have the right gear. But I think too often we think gear solves the problem.
Sure.
And the reality of it is sometimes you just need to take some time and ask questions, seek someone that's achieving what you're wanting to achieve, and figure out how they got there. What are they using? Are there similarities? If there's similarities, how are they doing it different than I'm doing it? I know a lot for me, a lot of times when I've been with churches, like they're just running their front key at like 100%.
Yeah.
Because they think that's where it needs to be, boom, 100%, and everything's washed out. And I won't get into the detail because this is about you. But the point is I think sometimes like we just think gear solves the problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is a solution.
New gear will fix everything.
Yeah.
No.
But I mean, a lot of times it really is about just like taking a deep breath. Now, you were in a season where there wasn't services, people in the building when you guys were kind of doing this. So there was time.
Yep.
But I think sometimes we just have to realize that, like, take a deep breath. Let's invest some time. Like you said, every weekend we can make some minor adjustments, see what we like, what we don't like, adjust it back. Right.
Yep.
But I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to hear that.
Well, and that season taught me a lot, and we've since gone. We were able to train up a guy on our team, and I handed the reins over from lighting and went back to the world of video, which is where my sweet spot is.
Our buddy Joe,
where I spend most of my time now, right? But one of the things I took away from that season that has really stuck with me, knowing and understanding the gear you have, is so important. And I think oftentimes people end up with this anxiety around gear because there's either so much of it, or it's complicated, or it's intimidating. And so as a result, I think sometimes people are hesitant to learn their gear. And I remember that feeling, and I remember the day I got past that. It was the first time I ever had to program a spider. So
that's easy. That's simple.
I was like 18 or 19.
Yeah.
And I ended up booked on this gig where I had to program a spider, and I had never done that. And I was terrified of that piece of gear because it was just this like big, angry, like black box of a thing that I didn't understand. And I remember kind of in the midst of that panic thinking, okay, people figure this out every day. Like, this is an industry standard piece of gear, at the time.
Yeah.
And people figure this out every day, and it has a manual. And so the night before the gig, I went and read the manual cover to cover twice. I showed up the next day, and was it perfect? No.
Right.
But I remember getting past that anxiety of going, okay,
you conquered it.
This has a manual, and other people figured this out. You can do this. And I think so often...
You were 18?
18 or 19,
That's a very mature 18 or 19-year-old.
I was scared to death at the time.
Yeah,
I think it was anxiety-driven, but I'll take it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
I know a lot of church tech people, or really just this happens outside of the world of church too, where people never get past the gear anxiety.
Yeah, that's true.
And so that ends up causing a couple of challenges, right? Oftentimes you think you need new gear when you really just haven't taken the time to figure out what your current gear really can do.
Right.
So that can be really challenging. And if you don't know your gear well, you won't know if it's broke or if you're experiencing user error.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Right.
That's real good.
And so I see learning and understanding your gear as a commitment to good stewardship.
Yeah.
Because when you know a piece of gear, you know a system like the back of your hand. You know what 100% efficiency and use in that system is like. You'll know where the end of it is.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of this where your technical creativity comes into play, but knowing what your system will and will not do, whether that's a video switcher, whether that's a lighting console, whether that's an audio console, if you haven't taken the time to figure out what it's capable of, you're kind of doing yourself as an artist a disservice. And if you're responsible for that piece of gear, you're kind of doing your organization a disservice too. Because when you don't take ownership for the gear, for what's been entrusted to you, nobody else likely knows how to do it, right? You're in that role because the organization said, you are who we've entrusted to figure this out, and we're relying on you to make it happen. And that weighs heavy on me to know that my words are going to direct purchasing decisions and scaling decisions. That's important to me, that we do that right. And when we say, hey, it's time to replace this, that it's actually time to replace this, or hey, this isn't working. We're not just replacing it because we haven't taken the time to really learn it or figure it out, right?
You're squeezing every bit out of that piece,
right?
And you've redlined it long enough. The needs have outgrown it, and there's no way we can get more out of this.
Right.
We've got to go to the next level.
Or we're waving the flag early because we know we're close to redlining it.
Right.
So like sometimes the right decision is, we need to squeeze every drop out of this. And there are other times where it's like, hey, if we lose that piece of gear, the show's kind of over. We need to have a conversation before we get to the red line on that one. So there's a difference between losing a camera in a 3-camera rig and losing the video switcher. Right? Like, you can lose a camera and still have an effective event. If you lose a video switcher, you're kind of hosed. So I think knowing when it's time to have a conversation about a piece of gear and understanding the value that piece of gear creates within the context of the system is important.
So we are honored to have you on the leadership team at Thought Leader, and you and Brian co-lead a mentor circle together.
We do. It's a good time.
It's a great time. And you ask a question at the beginning of every season to all the folks who've signed up for that season. And your question that you normally ask, and I might get this a little wrong, but what is the biggest ministry challenge that you're facing today? And there's a very intentional reason why you do that. I'm going to ask that question, but switched a little bit. What is the biggest technical challenge that you faced shifting from your role at the college, or I guess it would technically be with the college and the ESPN, the network sports, into full-time vocational ministry? What's the biggest challenge that you had in that transition, or biggest adjustment? Maybe it wasn't a challenge, because challenge sometimes can seem negative. Maybe just the biggest adjustment, good or bad.
It's a great question. There were a few for sure. I think the biggest, specific to my role as an engineer, I think the biggest adjustment from going to a professional sports broadcast world to working in a ministry environment is, as an engineer, you're building. You essentially get to stand behind. I like to say I'm the science behind the art. Because I'm no good as an artist. Right. And so the way that you do that in a broadcast truck and the way that you do that in a ministry environment are different. Both are important, and understanding the differences and the similarities are important. In a ministry environment, my end user might be a soccer mom, right? Where if I'm working as an engineer in a TV truck, my end user is probably not a soccer mom. It's probably, an industry professional who, has learned her craft and, it does this every day and knows it inside and out. It's a different level of support and a different kind of support. And so I would build a system to resource a seasoned professional different than I'm going to build a system to resource a volunteer. Right?
Yeah. No, I get it.
So I think a great example of that is I can relate this to lighting. So when I stepped onto team at Chris Fellowship, the answer to how do we do lighting in rooms was console, which is not a wrong answer, right?
Right.
Like a console will do it. And a lot of manufacturers have different size consoles. They have a big one, they have a medium one, and they have a small one. And it's like, it on paper, it looks real good. You're like,
Right.
yeah, big one in big room, medium one in medium room, small one in small room. Let's go.
Figured the scale out right there.
Yeah, that's kind of what we had. And so we have, at our broadcast location, we have a like a little 500 seat like B venue that we use for ministry classes and, you know, baby dedications and just all kinds of different stuff throughout the week.
Okay.
And there was an MA2 on PC in that room that was awesome. Like, it was, you could do anything with it. And
then some.
By any measure, it was the right solution for the room. If what I had in the room was a seasoned lighting professional.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not what I had in the room.
Yeah.
And so we had all of these different ministries trying to use this space. And there's nuances. There's nuances to a lighting console in general. There are additional nuances to running lighting software on a PC.
Sure.
And so it would update. We'd have a power bump. This was before we had done really any infrastructure. So we didn't have any UPSs or any of that at the time. But like essentially anytime anyone had to use the room, someone from production would get a phone call. We'd have to go over there, reboot it, you know, refire the layouts and reconnect the USB and, you know, pull the whole thing up and reshake it. And we started asking ourselves, like, is this is the right way to do this on paper, right? But is this the best way to do this to resource the people that are trying to use this space? And we very quickly found that the answer was no. And so we took it out. And we put in a Q server. And now what lives in that room is a touchscreen with 2 faders and 3 buttons and a color palette. So somebody can walk in, they tap the screen, and it's very iPhone-esque, right? And that's one of the beautiful things about what that has done to society is everybody kind of understands how to use an iPhone.
Right.
So we kind of use that as a design lens of like...
There's no manual for the iPhone, right? I mean, you just
Well, I mean, there
get on it
probably is, but I've never read it, right?
Maybe. I'll just say that every time I get one, there's this thing in there, and I can't read 90% of it, but the stuff I can read isn't really a manual other than a power button. It gives you like the 3 or 4 things, and then everything else you got to figure out.
Right.
And you do, right?
Yeah.
So
they have built an intuitive enough product that you probably can figure it out on your own.
Right.
And that was kind of our lens for the design work of like, can we build an intuitive enough solution that someone can probably figure it out?
And I would say from what I have seen, because we've had this conversation before too, you guys have done a really good job at that.
The lighting team spent a ton of time, and I think I drove them crazy for a while because we pushed really hard to refine this solution. Mm-hmm. And my goal was that we would not have to write a 1-page for how to use it. And we would keep hitting things in software where it's like, well, we'll just put a 3x5 and we'll laminate it and it'll be like, do this, then this, and this. I was like, I don't want to do that. We should be able to build a solution so somebody can walk up and they know what to do. And I think I drove Joe crazy for the better part of 3 months while he did the revisions. Because I also I wasn't doing the programming on it. We had 2 other guys on the team that were.
Yeah.
But we pushed and pushed and pushed. And now what's in that room is a touchscreen that has a label on it that says, tap here to wake up the lighting system, right? You tap it and the screen lights up and you've got front light, house light, and you've got teaching video off and a whole bank of colors. And it's very easy for somebody with no experience to walk in and have an event in the space and use the space in an excellent and effective way without needing to know MA2, without really even needing to know how to use a computer. And so I love being able to build solutions like that, but you have to be able to think about what's right for your end user.
Yeah.
And so I would have never built a system like that in a broadcast track.
Sure. Right.
I would have never, if I was out on a show, I would never approach the LD in the venue and go, hey, I got this touchscreen thing and I think it'd do this. Like, that would be absurd, right? So to a very long answer to your question, you know, the way that you approach building a system is very different in the world of broadcast versus, you know, what you're doing in a ministry environment, because your end user is different.
Yeah.
And you have to consider that. So if you're building with the end user in mind, you have to make different decisions.
Dang, bro, that is so good. That is gold. That is gold. Okay, well, I'm gonna ask you kind of the last question that Chris and I always ask on these podcasts. And the question is, and you can take a little bit of time to think about it.
Oh, no.
If you like. But if you could go back knowing what you know today, what would you tell the 18-year-old Neil Zimmerman?
Oh, gosh. What a question.
I know, right?
I think if I had to go back and have a conversation with past me, it would go something along the lines of don't be afraid to pursue what you know you're called to and what you're passionate about. Because I think that would have saved me a couple of years at the beginning of my college adventure.
Right.
I think you can do it would be another thing I would say. If you had told me 15 years ago when I was in high school that I was going to get to do the things that I get to do at the scale that I've gotten to do them, I would have told you you're crazy. Because I don't think I knew that I had that capacity when I was back there. To be able to go back and tell myself, like, hey, you can do it, and other people have figured this out, and you can too. You've just got to put in the work and get it done. And if you're willing to work hard, have a good attitude, and be willing to create value for people wherever you go, you can go do anything.
That's great.
I think that's probably what I needed to hear back then.
I think a lot of people need to hear that right now.
I still need to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. Bro, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah, absolutely. This was fun.
Love you, dude.
Love you too.